Libra, my dear seeker of balance and beauty, I need you to pause just for a moment because what I'm about to share could change the way you move through this week. This is more than a horoscope. It's a message from beyond the veil, from a soul who still holds your heart in hers. Your mother, watching you from heaven, is trying to protect you. And she's guiding you right now, to this very moment, because there are 3 places you must avoid this week. Not to scare you but to keep your energy aligned with peace, protection, and the path you're truly meant to walk. You see, Libra, your energy is especially sensitive right now. You've always carried the weight of keeping things fair, beautiful, and calm for everyone else. But have you noticed lately how drained you feel after certain interactions or spaces? As if you leave parts of yourself behind just to keep the peace. That isn't just fatigue. It's spiritual misalignment. And when your soul is pulled too far from its center, you begin to forget your own voice. That's what your mother is trying to stop. That's why she's sending you this divine alert. There are 3 types of environments you must avoid if you want to stay grounded in your truth and protected by grace. And no, Libra, it's not a coincidence that you found this video. Maybe you felt that someone or something was watching over you lately. Maybe you've seen signs repeating numbers, white feathers, or an unexplained wave of emotion. That's how spirit speaks. That's how a mother whispers to her child from the other side. So if something inside you is stirring right now, if your chest feels a little tight or your mind suddenly goes quiet, then please don't scroll away. Stay with me. This message is for you. Before we continue, let me ask you, have you ever walked into a room, a gathering, or a conversation and immediately felt your energy shift? That something invisible just didn't feel right? If that has happened to you, I invite you to leave a comment below with the phrase, "I trust my inner balance," not just as a way to affirm your awareness, but as a sacred agreement between you and the divine guidance reaching for you now. And allow me to take a moment to express my deepest gratitude for your presence here. Every like, every comment, every time you subscribe connects you deeper to our spiritual family at Zodiac Whisper Tarot. Your support doesn't just fuel this channel, it becomes a vessel through which these transformational messages reach more souls like yours. I promise you, dear Libra, you'll want to stay with me until the very end of this reading. What's coming next isn't just a list of warnings, it's a path back to your inner harmony, your clarity, and your sacred center. The 3 places your mother in heaven wants you to avoid, they aren't just locations. They are energetic traps. And when you learn to recognize them, you'll reclaim your spiritual power in a way that changes everything. So take a breath. Open your heart. Let's begin. When Venus, your ruling planet, enters a square with Saturn this week, the cosmos begins to whisper about boundaries, balance, and the weight of responsibility you may have unknowingly taken on. This planetary aspect is not here to punish you, Libra is here to refine you. To ask, what have you been carrying that was never yours to begin with? The energy of Venus wants you to feel harmony, beauty, and ease. But Saturn, the great teacher, wants you to earn your peace through clarity and choice. And when they clash in the heavens, it often reflects a silent clash within, between what you truly desire and what you feel obligated to do. As a Libra, you are ruled by the air element and the archetype of the scales. Your soul is built for equilibrium. Yet in your quest to create peace outside, there's a tendency to absorb tension that doesn't belong to you. You might find yourself agreeing just to avoid conflict, nodding even when your heart hesitates, or hesitating when you long to speak. This is not a flaw, it's your gift taken to the extreme. And right now, the universe is gently showing you where that gift needs realignment. Energetically, this week brings heightened sensitivity. You may feel more attuned to people's tones, moods, or unsaid expectations. You walk into a room, and without anyone saying a word, you sense what needs to be held together. But this isn't your job anymore. The lesson of this week is about sacred boundaries, not walls, but filters. Not rejection, but discernment. What needs to stay, and what needs to leave, so that your inner balance isn't constantly disturbed by outer noise. Your mother's presence, gentle, loving, and protective, is felt strongest when your own energy is being pulled in too many directions. In those moments when your mind is clouded, your chest tightens, and you feel the urge to keep it together for others, that's when her voice is closest. And her message is simple: you are not responsible for carrying everyone's emotions. You were not born to keep the world spinning on your back. Like a golden scale placed in the wind, your sense of truth gets distorted when too many outside forces weigh in. You start measuring your worth based on how quiet you stay, how pleasing you are, or how much you sacrifice. But real peace, God's peace, doesn't ask for self-erasure. It doesn't require that you mute your voice to make someone else comfortable. True peace is the kind that lets you breathe deeply in your own skin, without fear, without guilt, without apology. If you've been struggling with choices whether to stay, speak up, shift direction, this planetary tension might be the reason why things feel stuck. Saturn wants you to take full ownership of your path, and Venus wants that path to feel good, not just look good. So, ask yourself, have I confused harmony with compliance? Have I accepted emotional discomfort as the cost of belonging? The answer doesn't need to come today. But the awareness is the beginning. When you start noticing which situations pull you out of yourself, you gain the power to choose differently next time. That is the quiet revolution Venus and Saturn are trying to awaken in you. You are still allowed to be kind, soft, and giving. But you must not pour from an empty vessel. And you are still allowed to love people, but not at the expense of your own alignment. The guidance this week is not to withdraw from the world, but to begin walking through it with clearer eyes and a quieter, stronger heart. It may help to remember something so simple, yet profound: peace doesn't mean saying yes to everything. Peace sometimes means saying no and meaning it with love. When you trust that your no comes from self-respect and not fear, it becomes a holy act. You are honoring both yourself and the divine spark within you. And that is enough. Sometimes the spaces we enter quietly rearrange our inner world without us even realizing it. As a Libra, you're deeply attuned to the energy of your environment, so much so that a room's tone, a person's unspoken expectations, or even a misplaced glance can tip your emotional scales. That's why it's not just who you're with that matters, it's where you choose to be. This week, with the energies pressing in from both the cosmic and the personal realms, your awareness of space must become sacred. Not as a way of avoiding life, but as a way of honoring the delicate architecture of your inner peace. The first kind of place to avoid is anywhere you feel silently coerced to agree when your heart quietly protests. These can be formal meetings where you're expected to nod along to decisions that don't sit right with your values. Or they may appear in family settings where tradition expects your silence just to keep the peace. But peace that demands your disconnection from self is not peace, it's performance. And performance, over time, wears down the soul. When the Justice card appears reversed, it reminds us that injustice doesn't always look like conflict. Sometimes it wears the mask of politeness, of harmony, of, let's just not make things worse. But at what cost? When you say yes to something your spirit cannot align with, you don't just betray yourself, you unintentionally teach others that your boundaries are negotiable. It doesn't have to be dramatic. In fact, saying no can be one of the most graceful things you do this week. You don't owe explanations for your clarity. You just owe yourself the freedom to speak when your truth is knocking. As someone once said with great wisdom, let your yes be yes, and your no be no. Not for defiance but for integrity. You were never meant to be the one who absorbs everyone's discomfort just to maintain surface calm. Then there are the spaces drenched in anxious energy, places where the conversation always circles around what's going wrong, what might go wrong, or what already fell apart. People in these spaces often mean well. They're venting, processing, unloading, but if you're not mindful, you begin to carry what isn't yours. You start anticipating problems before they exist. You second-guess your choices. And the lightness in your spirit begins to fade under the weight of other people's worries. In numerology, the number 6, when inverted, often signals that a desire to protect or please others has morphed into overresponsibility. It becomes a form of emotional overfunctioning. You might find yourself offering advice when none was asked, trying to fix what you didn't break, or simply losing sleep over someone else's anxiety. It's beautiful that you care so much, Libra, but caring is not the same as carrying. You are allowed to listen without absorbing, to support without self-sacrifice. If you notice that you leave certain rooms feeling more scattered than when you entered, that's a sign you're not just visiting energy or taking it home. Lastly, avoid places that lack beauty and intention. This might sound superficial, but for you, aesthetics aren't luxury theory, a form of emotional oxygen. You're ruled by Venus, after all. A cluttered room, a neglected space, or an environment where no one cares how it feels will slowly dim your creative fire. When the Empress card appears reversed, it signals that the feminine principle of nurturing, creating, and feeling safe in beauty has been suppressed. You may not even notice it at first. But over time, your ideas will feel dull. Your joy will feel harder to access. And the small things you used to love, arranging flowers, lighting candles, writing with intention, may start to feel pointless. But they're not pointless. They're portals. Each small act of beauty you bring into your space is a declaration that you are worthy of gentleness, of inspiration, of alignment. Avoid the chaos, not because you are weak, but because your soul deserves more than survival. It deserves spaciousness. This week is not asking you to run away from the world. It's asking you to choose wisely which rooms you step into, which energies you entertain, and which environments you allow to shape your inner state. Ask yourself, does this space nourish the version of me I'm trying to become, or does it drain the light I'm here to offer? When in doubt, listen to your body. It always knows. Not every answer needs to come today. In fact, one of the greatest gifts you can give yourself this week, dear Libra, is permission to slow down. You are constantly trying to make everything feel right for everyone. but healing doesn't happen in a rush. Real alignment, the kind that restores your center and clears your inner vision, unfolds gently, like breath returning to rhythm after a long-held pause. That's what this week is inviting you into, not more doing, but a soft return to presence. A quiet rebalancing of the scales that have tipped too far without you realizing. Begin by reconnecting to your breath not just as a function, but as a conversation with your body. A grounding practice you might try is the heart-centering breath. Inhale through your left nostril, close the right, and exhale through the right while closing the left. Back and forth. With each cycle, visualize a golden scale slowly finding equilibrium again. You don't need to fix everything. Just allow space for your nervous system to remember that safety and peace are within reach. Even your nourishment can become part of this reset. The foods and drinks you choose this week are more than fuel theory signals to your nervous system about whether it's time to fight, flee, or feel supported. Calming options like chamomile tea can soothe the frayed edges of your day. Pomegranate juice helps cleanse the emotional weight carried silently in your gut. Walnuts, with their soft crunch and brain-supporting oils, can help you restore clarity when overthinking becomes overwhelming. Eating intentionally becomes a form of self-respect. A way of saying, I see you. I will care for you now. Another beautiful practice is journaling. But not in a heavy, performance-driven way. Just 5 minutes before sleep. Ask yourself, what threw me off balance today? And then gently reflect, what might I need to return to myself? You'll be surprised at how quickly your inner wisdom rises when you create room for it. And when it comes, don't judge it. Receive it like a message from someone who loves you. Because at ice it's your higher self returning home. And if you feel pressure to make big decisions right now, remember this, peace never demands urgency. It doesn't force. It doesn't shout. It waits patiently for you to choose it. Like the quiet voice of a mother who simply holds the door open, peace waits for you to notice that you were never locked out in the first place. You don't have to figure everything out. You don't need a perfect plan. You only need to return to your still point again and again until clarity begins to grow roots inside of you. Even in Scripture, we are reminded not to lean entirely on our own understanding, but to move forward with trust, one step at a time. That's not a command to surrender your mind, it's a gentle call to soften the grip of control, and to remember that guidance often arrives once you're quiet enough to hear it. This week, your healing will not come from doing more, but from doing less with greater intention. Let your breath be your first medicine. Let your food be an offering of care. Let your thoughts pass through your journal without judgment. And most of all, let go of the idea that peace has to be earned through over-effort. It doesn't. Peace returns when you do. And when you come home to yourself, even just for a moment, everything else begins to shift. Quietly. Naturally. Powerfully. There's something quietly powerful about noticing the small signs, those subtle nudges the universe places along your path when words fall short. This week, Libra, your guidance doesn't need to arrive in loud declarations. Instead, it comes in the form of color, vibration, and sacred symbols that whisper truth to your intuitive heart. In the rhythm of everyday life, we often overlook the gentle messages meant to ground and uplift us. But when your soul is as sensitive as yours, even the softest signs can shift everything. Let's begin with color, not as a matter of fashion or taste, but as frequency. Pastel green and blush pink aren't just aesthetically pleasing theory vibrational tones that speak directly to your heart space. Green soothes, balances, and reconnects you to compassion without depletion. It invites you to breathe deeper, to release tension, to soften the armor you sometimes wear just to move through a noisy world. Pink, in its gentle warmth, holds you like kindness. It awakens the quiet courage required to choose love even when fear feels easier. These shades are not about appearances, they are healing tools. Wearing them, surrounding yourself with them, even meditating with these colors in mind, brings your emotional field back into alignment. And when your emotions are balanced, your decisions become clear, not reactive, but conscious. Then there are the numbers, the silent language of the universe. This week, 2 numbers are guiding you toward a deeper awareness. The number 2 is a reminder that your power lies not in domination or retreat, but in discernment. The real strength in any conversation is not how loud your voice is, but how clearly it reflects your truth. Whether you are choosing between 2 options, navigating relationships, or weighing a decision, the energy of 2 invites harmony through conscious choice. There is wisdom in pausing before speaking, in considering how your words ripple, in choosing connection over control. Meanwhile, the number 7 calls for inward reflection. It nudges you to step back, not in surrender, but for clarity. 7 is the number of inner vision, of seeing beyond surface noise into the soul of a situation. It's the space between reaction and response. The moment of breath before decision. If life has felt too fast or full, if the world's demands have drowned out your intuition, this number comes to say, it's time to come back to your inner sanctuary. You don't need every answer right now. You only need to remember where your wisdom lies and trust that it will rise when you meet it with stillness. There may also be moments this week when a white feather crosses your path. Perhaps it lands near your feet as you're walking, shows up in an unexpected photo, or appears without reason in your home. Don't rush past it. Pause. The feather is a symbol of divine protection, but more than that, it's a quiet signal from the love that watches over you. From the kind of presence that doesn't force, but gently guides. When you see it, take it as a reminder, you are not alone in your choices. You are seen. You are supported. As you move through your week, begin to notice how your environment responds to your awareness. What colors draw you in? What numbers repeat around you? What signs speak directly to your quiet knowing? These aren't coincidences. They're confirmations. When you slow down enough to recognize them, you begin to co-create with the world around you. Your life becomes less about controlling outcomes and more about listening to what's already unfolding in perfect rhythm. And if you do spot a white feather, or see the number 7 more than once, or feel your mother's presence in a moment of silence, consider sharing it below. Not just to validate your experience, but to hold space for someone else who might need the same reassurance. Sometimes your story is the exact sign another soul was asking for. Even the most graceful souls, like you, Libra, need to be reminded that balance isn't about holding everything in place for every any, it's about choosing what's truly aligned with your peace. This week, the energy invites you to examine the core areas of your life, not through pressure, but through presence. If you listen closely, you'll hear what's been speaking all along, the quiet wisdom of your own inner rhythm. In love, this becomes especially clear. Relationships should be spaces of refuge, not negotiation tables where you constantly bargain with your own boundaries. If you've been feeling guilty for expressing your needs, take a pause and ask yourself why. Love that is real and rooted in respect will never ask you to abandon yourself. You are not difficult for needing space, for asking for emotional consistency, or for saying no when something doesn't feel right. You are simply aware. And awareness is not a flaw, it's a strength. If someone makes you feel like you're asking for too much when you're simply seeking fairness, that's not your failure. That's their limitation. A healthy relationship doesn't just celebrate your light, it also honors your edges. When it comes to work, indecision might feel louder than usual. You may be torn between staying in something stable and pursuing something more soul-aligned. This tension is a gift. It's your intuition rising up, asking to be trusted. The world teaches us to seek what is profitable. But your spirit craves what is purposeful. If you're waking up dreading the day ahead, that's not laziness, it's misalignment. Ask yourself what would feel lighter. What would bring you a sense of peace at the end of the day, not just productivity, but meaning? And if the path forward isn't yet clear, that's okay. Sometimes clarity doesn't arrive in a rush. It unfolds as you choose, one quiet yes at a time. In the area of finances, there's a call to reflect not just on what you spend, but on why you spend. Are you investing in peace or projecting an image? There's nothing wrong with beauty or luxury. In fact, as a Libra, beauty feeds your soul. But when financial decisions are made to satisfy others' expectations or to mask an inner emptiness, they become chains instead of choices. Think of your money as energy. Are you directing that energy toward things that truly support your well-being? A soft robe, a clean space, a good book, these are not indulgences. They are soul care. Prioritize them over appearances, and watch how abundance begins to feel more natural, not forced. Your body, too, has been sending signals, especially in the neck, shoulders, and upper back. These are places where unspoken burdens hide. The pressure to say yes, the tension of unvoiced emotions, the weight of others' expectations, all of it rests quietly in your posture. Pay attention. A gentle stretch, a warm compress, even 5 minutes of mindful movement in the morning can shift everything. Lavender oil at night, applied slowly, not rushed, can become a prayer in itself, a reminder that your body is not a machine to be pushed, but a sacred space to be honored. In all of this, the thread that weaves it together is intention. The question is never, am I doing enough? But, is what I'm doing bringing me closer to myself? Because life isn't measured by output, it's felt through presence. You don't need to earn your right to rest, to love, or to breathe deeply. That right was given the moment you arrived here. Your job is to remember it. As someone once wisely said, the still, small voice within is often the one that holds the most truth. Let it guide you gently this week. You are not behind. You are not failing. You are simply returning back to your center, one breath, one boundary, one brave choice at a time. There's a quiet kind of strength in choosing peace, not the peace that comes from pleasing everyone, but the kind that begins inside your own chest and radiates outward. Libra, your heart has carried more than most people know. You've tried to balance so many things for so many others. But the message your mother is sending you, softly yet firmly, is this: you don't need to hold it all anymore. Not every scale must be kept perfectly level. Not every silence is sacred. Sometimes, the truest harmony is the one you create when you listen to your own needs and follow them without guilt. As you move forward this week, allow yourself to gently let go of the spaces, conversations, and expectations that ask you to shrink. You are not here to dim your light for the comfort of others. You are here to shine in your own way, at your own pace, and to surround yourself with people and environments that support your inner clarity, not cloud it. Think about the 3 places we explored. Ask yourself honestly, which one are you still holding on to, even though it no longer holds space for you? Where have you been saying yes with your words but no with your heart? And if your mother were sitting beside you right now, would she want you to stay in that space, or would she gently take your hand and lead you somewhere softer, freer, more aligned with the beauty you carry inside? Sometimes, healing doesn't look like a breakthrough. It looks like choosing a quiet walk instead of a crowded event. It sounds like saying, "I'll get back to you," instead of rushing into another commitment. It feels like drinking tea in silence, allowing your nervous system to remember safety. You don't need to perform balance. You simply need to return to it over and over again. And if you're still not sure where to begin, ask yourself this: what would it look like to take care of yourself the way you take care of everyone else? What would change if your own well-being became the center of your choices, instead of an afterthought? I want to thank you deeply for sharing this space with me today. Your presence here matters. Every moment you spend listening, reflecting, and honoring your own energy is a step toward becoming the most authentic version of yourself. Every like, every comment, every subscribe you offer is more than a digital interaction. It's a commitment to yourself, and to the soul community we're building here at Zodiac Whisper Tarot. Your support allows us to keep bringing these messages to life. And for that, I am truly grateful. If anything in this video resonated with you, if it felt like your mother's hand gently resting on your shoulder, please take a moment to share your thoughts in the comments. What part of this message did you need to hear most today? What space will you choose to avoid, and what space will you choose to create? When you share, you're not just speaking for yourself. You're lighting a path for others, too. And if you feel called, subscribe and stay close. There is so much more waiting for you: clarity, softness, transformation, all unfolding exactly when you're ready for it. Because the journey back to balance doesn't happen in a single step. It begins with a single choice: to listen inward, and to honor what you hear. So, Libra, what will you choose this week, now that you've been reminded of what truly matters?